From an odds expert predicting a win for Sterling, to Mark Raimundi predicting a successful comeback win for Cejudo. These are pros predicting who will win UFC 288, Sterling versus Cejudo. As usual, odds checkers expert Trent Pruitt is calling it how he sees it and predicting a home run for Sterling. He's putting his money on Sterling to take the belt home and put all doubts to rest after his controversial DQ win over Jan back in 2021. Not only does he expect the Funkmaster to score a big W over Cejudo, who's one of the best bantamweights, but it'll also secure his spot as the rightful heir to the bantamweight crown once and for all.
The kind of athlete that you have to be to do that, you can get great at everything. And you're seeing that here, that same kind of focus.
Because while Henry the Messenger has been cage-side for some big matches, being in the cage against active competition versus coaching someone for it are two entirely different things, even though he's been challenging the likes of Alex Volkanovski and training John Jones for his successful comeback match against Cyril Gane. Simply put, Cejudo not being under the bright lights for 3 years and launching straight for the star himself, the champion of the division, might be the hardest challenge he's ever set for himself. On the other hand, all Sterling has to do to hold his own is to keep his distance, which should be a much easier goal for him than it'd be for Cejudo, since the Funkmaster does have a 3.5-inch reach advantage over Henry. Plus, as a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he can definitely hold his own against the former double champ's notorious wrestling prowess.
He's trying to get out of this.
He's exhausted.
He really is.
Rice is exhausted.
Ultimately, all these advantages give a big edge to the returning champ over the contender, even if that contender is a former double division champ. But before you jump to any conclusions, let's hear it from a former UFC bantamweight top contender. He wasn't an ordinary contender either, because Marlon Moraes has the unique experience of having fought both Sterling and Cejudo. While he's getting ready to make a comeback of his own with the PFL this time, the former WSOF champ had a couple of unlucky tries for the 135-pound title belt before being shot down both times by the two fighters. Magic thinks it'll be an intriguing matchup first and foremost, but eventually the victory will have to go to the Funkmaster.
You hear Elliot Marshall trying to instruct his pupil here, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Because despite the talents of both the contender and the champion, the advantages weigh heavily in favor of the reigning champ, Aljamain. According to him, Sterling's been underrated for his striking by a supremely confident Triple C. Simply doesn't take into account the ground reality, which is that he's every bit as grappling smart as Henry. And let's not forget, he's super talented for his weight class with a natural reach advantage that would give him the edge over Cejudo in the striking department too. Marlon doesn't see Henry being able to go in Sterling's range, and there's just not enough data to consider, seeing as Triple C has been out of action for so long.
Every time you call somebody on something, they do the opposite, DC. It's like they're listening.
When the 7th of May rolls around, it'll be the first time Henry steps inside the UFC cage in 3 years, so the stakes are definitely as high as they get. On one hand, there's the 36-year-old Cejudo, whose TKO win against Dominic Cruz in 2020 had rounded off a 6-fight win streak, and not only was it a fitting finale to a legendary flyweight career for the two-division champ, but it also allowed the gold medalist at the Summer Olympics of 2008 to become a superstar in only 12 years full of lightning-fast growth from the Olympics to the top of the UFC. Well, he's back once again to test his skills and chops, this time against a formidable opponent like Aljo, who's tasting top-tier UFC success as we speak, as proven by his 8-fight win streak at the moment. After being crowned the king of the division after a less-than-perfect start from Petr Yan, Sterling's proven that he's impossible to shake off by any of the top brass in the division, and I wouldn't count on anyone but Cejudo as a tough contender for the new champ. But first, for Triple C, it's time to shake off the rust, and it starts with the mental fatigue caused by years of being out of the game. Once that's taken care of, the physical part falls into place as well. Cejudo's never taken a mental break from the game, and he's in love with it, as is evident from his continuous updates to his podcast, The Triple C and Schmo Show, where he regularly provides fight updates covering major events like the recent lightweight title bout that saw Alex and Islam go head-to-head. So I think it'll be the physical obstacles he battles most. most because he's always been in the octagon, either as an active fighter or as a commentator and analyst, closely following each and every move in the divisions even during his absence. This gives him a lot of leverage, as he's had the time to hone his wisdom, not to mention work with amazing fighters behind the scenes for some of their most high-pressure matchups. These collaborators of Cejudo's include Zhang Weili, Demetrius Johnson, and perhaps the most high-profile of them all, John Jones, whose training camp for the Gone fight at UFC 285 made full use of some Triple C-style coaching. If he's that good when he's guiding Jones to a heavyweight title victory, then imagine how competitive and intense he'll get when delivering his own comeback. His ability to close the distance, corner his opponent with elite-level striking, and keep a close guard against his opponent shows he's not a fighter to be trifled with, even if he hasn't been in professional competition in 3 years. Still, all of his skill, talent, and grit will come into play. It has to, for this is the match of Henry's career, or as Raimundi puts it, his chance for unprecedented glory. For Mark, it's a sign of how good Cejudo is, for him to only be a slight underdog against Sterling, because as Marlon pointed out, that guy has got a substantial size advantage going for him. Aljamain's not a small fighter in both his pro record and his physical abilities, and he's definitely big for his division. With a record of 22-3 compared to Cejudo's 16-2, you can't expect him to be the more experienced fighter, at least in professional competition. And making it worse for Henry, he's been active in the UFC throughout the last 3 years. So, the messenger will find himself in the rare position of being an underdog in this fight, experience-wise at least. Plus, Cejudo's been resting well for close to 3 years now, fighting healthy and injury-free in closed practice sessions. So you can see how Aljo's heavy-duty fighting spree in recent years might put him on the back foot for the upcoming matchup. Ultimately, though, as analyst Brett Okamoto of ESPN points out, Sterling's got it in the bag, simply because the belt's already around his waist. But beyond that, it's really anyone's fight right now, because the advantages are evenly distributed between both fighters. In terms of style, the former two-division champ has his wrestling game dialed into a T, which no one yet has been able to counter effectively. In other words, he's never been taken down, ever. On the other hand, he never had to go up against the Funk Master, who's much bigger in size with a 3.5-inch reach advantage. When coupled with Cejudo's lengthy period away from the cage, this could mean some overwhelming times, especially in the first round or so. Like his bout with TJ, if Sterling manages to hold his own and capitalize in the first few rounds, he'll likely go for a stoppage in the first couple of rounds. But I wouldn't underestimate Cejudo's hunger and talent either. He's convinced that he's ready to take his career to its second innings, because the former champ thinks things through, as most of his analysis and fight commentaries will show you. For Cejudo to finally make the jump back into the highest levels of competition likely means he's in top form once again, and ready to kick some serious ASS. So there you have it, fight fans. From Mark Raimundi predicting a successful comeback win for Cejudo to an odds expert predicting a win for Sterling. Those were pros predicting who will win UFC 288, Sterling versus Cejudo.